Automata, Tango Mike, Hackmer. How is everyone doing, you legends? John, today is such a beautiful day here in Brazil.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Tell me about it.
I'm looking through my only window out of the dungeon,
Yeah?
and I can see a blue sky, very few clouds.
Lucky.
You can feel the warmth in your skin coming out of the window. Such a good day.
Jealous. We're gonna get frost tonight, so yeah, no. Back to the frigid winter again.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're gonna get frost tonight. But it's okay.
It's fine.
Winter's in its death throes. It'll be over soon. And it'll be 3 more months. We'll have summer for 3 months and we'll be back to winter again.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Man, I could use some time on the beach.
Me too. Me too.
It's summer there in Sweden? I didn't know you were in Sweden. Tango Mike, such a beautiful country. I have been there. I see people anxious. People want to know stuff. Do we have people? Do we have stuff to share with
We have stuff.
those
That's
people?
the question. We've got stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We do have
We just
stuff.
don't have stuff. Yeah.
We have stuff. And I'll be sharing some of that stuff today. But not too much, because I foresee, with my penguin divination skills, that we'll have a town hall announcement really soon. Sometimes they fail me, but I don't think this time they are wrong. I think we'll have a town hall announcement really, really soon. Excited? Excited about everything that's going on in Star Atlas right now? About our epic journey? About June and everything that June will bring? And today we're going to talk a little bit about that future. Especially, we are going to focus on something that John and I are super involved with. We are going to talk about the roadmap for Holosim. And, well, from what you guys are going to deduce, yeah, we are getting up for the next level here in Automata. Super exciting, super exciting. But, yeah, we'll wait a little bit before we start spilling all the alphas that we got. Yesterday we had a all hands meeting in Automata. It was super exciting. We got to see some cool stuff, some of it we are going to share today. And yeah, I feel the whole announcement coming really soon. It's going to lift everyone's spirits, I guess, which is good. Yes, Larino, we also have that going on. We'll talk a little bit about it today. The Star Atlas RPG campaign is coming to life. I am on the final stages of creating all the rules, all the systems for our campaign. And the cool stuff about that is that with everything that I have created for this RPG book, this tabletop RPG book, it allows us to create stuff for our crew members, for our MMO RPG vision really fast. So this was an unexpected but really interesting consequence of this work, which I'll be sharing with you guys later today. And yeah, super excited, looking forward to start on this new front as well, this new front of development of the Star Atlas IP, to bring more people, bring more audience to our products here. Yes, I'll share some stuff. Absolutely. But yep, So much to talk about. I think I will start our conversation here. I will reward the early birds that come to the brew on time with a video. I don't think we share this video anywhere, so can you guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Looks a lot like my screen.
Looks a lot like your screen, John.
Looks like my dev screen right now.
Let's get started then. Look at it go. A comet flying. Yes. A comet flying through the galaxy expanse.
Warp next.
Mm-hmm. Look at the UI elements highlighting that you are entering system. There we go.
Been good.
GM?
Oh, Wagner arrived early today.
No way he arrived early. We tried to leak those early so he wouldn't be here watching. And look at him. He's already here. GM, Michael?
It's not a grid. It's like you can pick any point in space that you want. So what you saw at the warp action was that it was snapping to the system nearby to give you the exact point, but there isn't a grid. There's just everything in the map is a point you can pick on, basically.
Yeah, but you do have coordinates. Yes, maybe you saw coordinates.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! Look at Arthur, John, trying to throw us under the bus. No way.
We didn't say that.
No. We didn't say that. Jesus Christ, Arthur. I trusted you. You were my friend.
It's trying to get us in trouble.
Trying to get us in trouble, indeed. But yeah, as you guys can see, and following Danny's countdown on Foundation Room, we are getting really, really close. We are getting really, really close to the next stage in C4. Now that Michael is here, I'm scared of leaking too much stuff, but as I said, you guys will be getting new informations on hopefully a very near future. So we'll leave this at that, and we'll reshape. We'll go back to the stuff that are the actual content for today's brew, which are the new direction on Holosim, how we are rethinking the system, how things will move forward from now on, the new milestones that we are hoping to achieve, how John and I are going to work on the upcoming months regarding Holosim, C4, and etc. And I also want to talk a little bit about our RPG system, about how everything's going to work. Before we move to those, I see Lerno has a question. Since there's no sector grid, do we have visual representations of fleets firing range?
Yep, there will be.
Yes.
I didn't see one there, but there will be.
Yes. Yeah, the circle that you see around the fleet is the attack range of your fleet. So yeah, as you guys can see through those series of videos you have been showcasing and posting on X and everything, the UI is a lot better right now. It gives a lot more information. Things are looking pretty exciting, and yeah, it's super cool to be able to open C4 and see stuff, right, John? We were just discussing this before the brew. John and I were playing with we disabled combat on Lerno's account. That's a sensible direction. Yes. Yes, it feels good finally be having fun with C4. Soon everyone will get to start experimenting with it as well, hopefully. So yeah, this is cool. But let's move on to the topics for today. I want to start this conversation, this moment, talking a little bit about the Star Atlas IP and overall work that we have been developing in the RPG Star Atlas lore front. As you guys know, I have been mostly focused on helping create the lore layer of Star Atlas. I have worked with John with the quest systems in Holosim. I have been creating C4 lore layer as well. We have the lore wiki and etc. And I realized that I needed a vessel to be able to showcase more of this universe that didn't depend strictly on game development. Like I can't pull out engineers right now from the concentrated work that they are doing on C4, on Holosim, etc. But I could start a thing of my own. I could start something that allowed us to bring Star Atlas to a wider audience, especially people who love RPGs, who love lore, who love sci-fi. And I realized that something that I have been doing pretty much my whole life, which is playing RPG, could come in hand here for Star Atlas. So for the past few months, I have been working on this RPG setting system for Star Atlas. So basically, when Star Atlas Football League, that's the next one, VBS. Once I finish the RPG campaign, Star Atlas Football League is the next one. So I have been creating this scenario together with the rules for our very own RPG system. And right now, you could say that we are on the test realm. I have picked people from the community, actually not me, you guys voted on community members to represent you guys on this process. And right now, those guys, they are reading the first pieces of this material that I created. And we are going to start our very own RPG campaign portraying the life in Star Atlas. All elements of this RPG system were created to be played inside Star Atlas. So for example, you guys will see when we have this system released that the materials that we use are C4 materials. You guys will see things like Genesian. You guys will see things like your iron ores. You guys will see things as your air bikes, your the weapons that we use in the systems are the same that you guys will see on Unreal Engine 5 gameplay, etc. And the species and everything, I have been working on using the lore that we have to bring life and bring substance to them in our RPG setting. So every species, everything that we have in Star Atlas Galaxy Expanse right now, I have expanded on that and created different abilities, perks, skills for the crew members that you guys will play in this RPG campaign. I have translated the stats that we have in in the ships right now into in-game formulas for our RPG system, and we are going to put this to test. Very soon, the players will finish creating their characters and etc. We are preparing the setting. I have the invaluable help from the players Larino, Gina Ray, Bohemian, Atlas Theory, and Saint Just. They are working hard on creating their characters. Funcracker is helping me as well. I'm getting more and more community members involved. And the grand idea here is to have this campaign, this RPG system, play in a live podcast where we'll be broadcasting Star Atlas or game or IP to the whole universe. And they'll be able to see or the art that we have in game. They'll be able to see the characters, the lore, every element of our IP. I'll bring to this podcast through the RPG language, through a tabletop RPG experience, and we are really VB. Don't be so mean, VB. Holy shit. We will be bringing to life Star Atlas through an RPG campaign, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I invite you guys to watch the podcast once it's ready. We'll be announcing this on Discord. I invite you guys to bring your friends to just chill and follow the adventure of this group of misfits that we have here in the community. And yeah, we are super excited about this. We want you guys to see how much love, how much depth the Star Atlas universe already has. Sometimes this can escape because development is hard, it takes time, but we have built a lot of stuff. We have a lot of content. We have virtually anything that we might need to create an entire RPG world. We are ready for this, and I'm happy to be taking this step, especially with those special individuals in the community. And in the next Lore Keepers, which is tomorrow, if you guys want to learn more details on how the mechanics work, how the species, each one of the species work, and etc., I'll be doing a deep dive in the Lore Keepers tomorrow. So don't miss this event. I'll even share this link here. Don't miss the next episode of the Lore Keepers tomorrow. It's going to be a blast. And with this shameless shilling of my RPG system done, John, I think we can go back to talking about the Holosim roadmap, C4 PTR integration, all of this stuff. Michael, if you feel so inclined to join us on stage, the invitation is extended to you. It would be really good to have your thoughts and considerations on here. But John, to preface everything that we'll be talking about, let's just recap the latest developments on Holosim, the things that were implemented last Thursday, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, get us started.
Yeah, so beginning on Thursday and, through the weekend as well as soon as up until Tuesday, we've been working on optimizing combat in the command view. There was a number of under-the-hood changes that made the actual hits that you send and receive much cleaner, much more reliable. And then that was finished off with some UI enhancements, both to the sector view, where you have that column of who's in the sector with you, as well as the command view itself, splitting players' fleets into groups, labeling them, And so those three things combined, having better, more accurate data, having fleets grouped in the UI visually, and then having players and factions grouped at the sector view level, have all made combat much easier to find and acquire targets. And you don't have to like open and refresh the view multiple times in the middle of a battle. You can hopefully stay there and pick a target and stay on that target and continue to fight that target until it's destroyed, kind of thing. So really happy with how that turned out. It took a little longer than I had hoped, but yeah, so we're at the end of May now, and it's a good segue into some of the work that we're doing on C4. And we're not giving an announcement or a town hall or anything, but Jose has hinted that that's something that's coming very soon. And so our attention is shifting to the town hall, but to the C4 release as well. So I don't plan to do any more major updates to Holosim. The combat release that was going to be tied to a marketplace update. If we launch that now, we would very likely be splitting our community's like focus between the PTR and Holosim, and I don't think we're going to do that. So we're going to hold off on this next version of Holosim. We're going to get a SAC server test going pretty soon here. And then, in the next little while, you'll have the C4 PTR to actually play on, and we'll go from there, sort of thing. So, all that to say that I think that we're all gonna shift our attention to making sure this PTR is the best thing that it can be, and focusing on another Holosim release right now would kind of split that focus. So we are not going to do that. And you're going to start seeing me posting lots of screenshots of C4 instead of Holosim. And we're going to open up the SAC server here pretty soon and get that ball rolling.
I see the chat going wild. I think people really want to see the C4 PTR. And honestly, as you guys know, we love Holosim. Holosim is a very important product for us. It literally allowed us to bring new ideas into Star Atlas as a whole. It allowed us to test mechanics very quickly. It allowed us to onboard new players, everything. But right now, I think we reached a point, John, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we are ready to start merging the different products. We are ready to start building together a unified vision. Of course, Holosim still has its place under the sun, but right now I think it's a very appropriate time for us to converge everyone automata-wise to what we are building in the C4 PTR, because it's so massive. It's so big, it's so enormous that, I mean, all of us, community included, because you guys will be testing it, you guys will be playing it, we'll have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and we bring, Joe and I and everyone else working in Holosim, we bring the experience and the knowledge that we got from the data in Holosim. We really know how to create engaging gameplay loops, interesting stories, starting to get good at building tutorials. So C4 PTR will need all of this. We'll need all of this. We need to be unified and focused on bringing the max potential of this new framework that we have for development, which is C4 PTR. So yeah, I'm super excited on everyone going together on this front right now.
Yeah, me too. Well said.
I see community talking here. The code for today's town hall announced for next week. I don't know, you guys can ask Michael, he's in the audience. Maybe He's feeling kind today. He might give you guys a hint or a clue. Oh, you want to finish the RPG sessions before we release C4 PTR? Put everything on hold until the RPG is done? I didn't say PTR is coming in 2 weeks. What the hell?
It's funny how that happens. Somebody starts a rumor.
Yeah,
it becomes true something. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, Lerno did.
Yeah.
See, Lerno? See what you're doing? Soon, let's spread the rumor. He heard it from Jose. Awesome. Let's go. So yeah, this is the roadmap now for Holocene is it should be unified to C4 PTR. We are moving in that direction. I feel it's super interesting. I feel it's something that we can add real value to the overall Star Atlas ecosystem. And Michael's dropping some alpha. Yes, as Michael is saying, the PTR is intended to be an extremely limited time window. Just enough to confirm there are no absolute showstoppers. So you guys will be getting the product on hand as soon as possible. And you guys will be helping us as testers of the PTR. I think this is the correct mindset to get everyone's expectations on. You guys will be actually trying and helping us develop it's like everyone becomes a member of the Star Atlas community test server to some extent, right, John? And we'll have you guys testing the system, you guys seeing how you feel about the mechanics, about the content, about the different gameplay loops. It's going to be super exciting. I don't even know what I can say here without leaking too much, but everyone I think I can talk for the team here, saying that we are all super excited for you guys to be testing and playing the PTR with us very soon. Yes. Does anyone has any questions about Holocene overall? About the things that we were discussing here regarding to the RPG campaign, the C4, etc. Show the video again. You wanna pick our brains? Hold on, let me find the video again. Can you guys see my screen? John, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Here's the range. Just let me pause here for a second. Oh, I'll go back a little bit here. As you guys can see, this is the range Michael was talking about. This is the attack range. As you guys can see, we have many different variables showing the interface right now. The red bar over here is the HP. The shield points, blue here. The AP of your fleet here on yellow. We have your cargo, how much it's filled. You can see it's only 9%, so it's barely visible here. You can see your fuel. The bar is almost complete because he has 84 fuel. You have ammunition here. You have the action menu over here. You can see the range of the attack zone. Let's keep going. Another interesting thing here, you can see the fuel that the character is going to expand. This action here. You can see the distance as well and how long it's going to take for you to enable this action. Here, you see those informations again and the coordinates of the place that you are arriving while you subwarp. As you can see, we now have cool animations as well for the assets. I like it, the arrows, don't get me wrong, but I like seeing my ships as well. Now the warping, as you can see, lightning fast. And they're not even using the star path warp gates. As you guys can see on the screen here, let me pause real quick. You now have a lot of quality of life improvements. Like, for example, if you click here, you go to port of entry, you go back to the CSS, you can reset your view. All the menus that we have on the starbase or actions for your fleets are here on the top. You can see how many star systems are owned by each one of the factions as well. A lot of cool stuff. Yep. I think we also had a leak from Michael on how scanning is going to work here. I think it was posted yesterday on X. Let me share here the link so you guys can see. Artemis. It was Artemis who leaked it. You can go after her, Michael. Here you can see the different scanning patterns in C4. So scanning got a revamp as well. Arthur, I'm not sure I can share more information on mechanics besides the fact that we'll have different types of scanning, different mechanics to find stuff. So, yeah. Yeah, and this is also something really interesting that Michael touched on. Many of the mechanics and systems inside C4 that you guys are going to play or engage, they are gated by the council rank system. So it will, for the first time, you see an actual progression in terms of XP, together with player activity, together your character build, let's say it like that. So if you want to unlock scanning patterns, you need to focus on these specific mechanics. If you want to go for mining, claim stakes building, you go for different ones. Combat, fleet formations, etc. Each branch will give you unique perks and abilities on that specific front of Strata's gameplay. So, yeah, it's interesting. I'm not even sure what level you need to be able to get access to everything. I'm not sure if this is even possible, honestly. So career progress ranks will be similar like WoW character talent tree.
It reminds me of it in
Yeah.
the way it looks. I don't know if that's how it functions necessarily, but
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, like a talent tree is something that they let you reset and you get to choose it over and over again. I don't know if we're doing resets or if you're locked in, but certainly the web is similar. Yeah.
yeah, the idea here is to have a very solid framework for the overall game system, a better, let's say, engine. And from now on, the work is adding new layers. Like I see you guys asking about the rescue/salvage layer. I think this is a really cool one. We can even see this coming to the roadmap after the C4 PTR and the overall game is launched. Introducing new crew mechanics. All of these are going to be on the roadmap. And honestly, now that we are talking about this, which ones would you guys like to see coming live to C4 first? Among the different gameplay loops and layers and ship specializations that we have. What about POLIS? That's a great question, VB. Mr. Wagner, if you want to indulge them, you can talk a little bit about that. But yeah, clarification. Here we go. We finally managed to bait him here.
It'll be easier than me multitasking
Exactly
on multiple channels, but I can speak to Polish. Yeah, I mean, I leaked out a proposal that I had across the team over a year ago now, but I called it the Installing Democracy module. And funny enough, I mean, with as much as we are utilizing agentic coding across the team now, we've talked about this in the past. You guys know essentially everybody on the team has access to an agent and to a max plan, whether that be with John's using XAI, some people are using OpenAI, some people are using Claude via Claude Code because it doesn't really work with the agent harness. But I mentioned it in a call with Jacob, and over a weekend, he essentially coded it up. So I think it's something that we could get relatively quickly after the release of C4. The general premise of it, and I think it's a good starting point, is that there are gameplay mechanics that are required. So the first thing that a faction has to do is upgrade a king system starbase up to tier 5. That unlocks the what's it called? Like a mega project where players can contribute to the construction of a democratic wing on that starbase, or a diplomatic wing, if you want to call it that. And once that gets installed, then players are able to, a function of two things. They're able to, one, delegate from the Panaculum DAO, so from the existing top level DAO, they're able to delegate PvP shares to a particular starbase. One of the requirements of delegating those PvP shares is a certain crew requirement. This is a pretty hard requirement that I have that we're still discussing, but essentially, just a general example here, like hypothetical example would be if you want to take 10 million PvP and assign it to one of these king system starbases, then you would need like 1,000 crew to serve as diplomatic resources at that starbase. So you'd have to transport them there, lock them into the starbase specifically to serve as diplomats, and that's how you can allocate higher amounts of your PvP to any particular starbase. Now, you're not locked into one. The idea would be that there's like periodic intervals, kind of like the way that we do the daily refreshes now, where it's effectively a snapshot of the amount of PvP that you have on that day. And you might decide that there are 3 frontier king systems that have a lot of economic activity at them, and you want to split your PvP across all 3 of those. That's something you'd be able to do. And the reason why you would want to do that and how it ties into the economic activity is that this is effectively a revenue distribution mechanism players in the game. And so again, using that 10 million PvP example, let's say the starbase, that king system across all players in the faction, there's 100 million PvP assigned to that starbase. You have 10 million. You would get 10% of the share of the revenue that is captured by that starbase that is distributed out to players. And there's like one additional kind of sub mechanic there, which is within the game, there's not going to be, say, a PIP system. You're not submitting proposals. There are going to be a few fixed mechanics that might be, the simplest example would be you get to define the fee that is carved out for people that are participating in diplomacy at that starbase. So as you guys know, right now, for example, crafting fees are, I think they're 7%. We might have moved them down to 5%, but and I could probably ramble on about this. There's a couple of different ways we could handle it, but just say the base fee is 5%. Players would have the ability to vote on increasing fees, crafting fees at that starbase up to something like 7.5%. Now, they could choose any value within that range of 0 to 2.5% added on top. If players add the additional 2.5%, well, then that goes into a pool, and then that's distributed every day out to anybody who has a proportional share of diplomats at that starbase. So, again, going back to why the economic activity is so important, you want your politicians at starbases that are generating the highest revenues because you're getting a share of that revenue distributed out to your player wallet. And then a final extension of that, this is something that likely wouldn't be on the initial release, but we would add the ability for players to vote on ways to spend that capital that doesn't consist strictly of being a revenue distribution to players. So, for example, again, considering you might be on a frontier starbase that is in a contested zone, if that starbase gets captured, all of your resources get destroyed and go back to the CSS. Well, you don't want to see that happen. And so you're able to take a portion of the revenues and spend that on hiring security patrol forces. A couple of ways we can do this as well. I think it'd be really cool if hiring those security forces went through a fleet rental system. And so players that are just listing their assets for rentals on the fleet rental marketplace, well, the star bases are hiring those. They're spending the earnings to hire security forces to patrol and protect that starbase from enemy players. And so that's just like a couple of examples. And there's, I think, a lot more to this. But that would be the first mechanism that we have that introduces POLIS governance into gameplay directly, and it has income and financial implications associated with it. So I think that would be all pretty cool, and that was the general proposal about a year ago, and it's actually looking pretty feasible for us to introduce. One of the big blockers for this, by the way, is that we need this concept of DAO v2, because as it stands today, I mean, when we launched the DAO, there was no concept of a player profile. Now, you all know your player profile from operating in Sage, but we need a way to associate a player profile with a DAO wallet, which we can actually coordinate now all through Zinc, through the Z profile. And it is that connection between a profile and a DAO wallet that allows us to then delegate PvP out into the game. So let me just stop there. I think I was just kind of running on a bit, but I'm pretty excited about it.
No, I mean, everyone here would love to hear you talking about this for the whole afternoon, Michael, honestly. This is something that we really, really want to see everyone here, myself included. Arthur saying, keep him talking. Yes, Arthur, I'll try. Everyone here would love to see these mechanisms come to life. And yes, this is pretty much the direction that we all foresee Stratos going, and which was, to be fair, shared in our white paper many years ago. I remember reading, for example, that the regional DAOs could vote, for example, on banning access of certain items to a Starbase marketplace. This is something that's feasible in the future, right, Michael? The players actually politically controlling a region of the Stratos universe, right?
Both within the game and from a intellectual property level, yes, that's still the idea. Within the game, I think we have a little bit more flexibility with the concept of revenue distribution. That's a bit more challenging at the quote unquote panaculum level DAO, because then it raises questions about, is POLIS a security or not? But in much the same way that we have Atlas emissions as an earnings mechanism for gameplay, we're wrapping this whole concept in the political and diplomacy gameplay loop. So the way that you're earning is by engaging in gameplay, which is why it's also very important to me, by the way, that we couple this with asset ownership requirements, and why I'm pushing so hard on, say, the crew requirements, because there's a direct conflict of interest from people who might own POLIS and have PvP, but not owning any game assets and not actually intend to play the game at all, where you can imagine they would, if they didn't have to own ships to move crew around and own crew to be their diplomats, well, naturally they would vote for the highest fees possible in the game because they're not playing. They don't care. What they want is to maximize income. If you're a player and you own PvP and you operate out of a starbase, you might actually say, let's keep the fees as low as possible, because it directly negatively impacts me if I'm paying higher fees because I crafted this starbase. So again, conflict of interest, and if there's an opportunity for someone to impose fees on players in the game, well, there should also be an asset ownership requirement of actually engaging in the game itself. So I don't think that really directly answered your question, Jose, but generally speaking, this political system in the game is intended to enable these types of gameplay mechanics, which might also, I'm just like brainstorming with you guys, theory crafting here, but it might also consist of a faction's ability to declare war on another region or something to that effect. Now, generally I think it's going to be pretty freely open to just go PvP and capture other regions, but conceptually that's something else that you could vote on. Do we want our faction to attack this other faction in this specific region? All of the diplomats in the surrounding territory need to vote on that, a vote on war or not.
Yeah, this is really cool, Michael. And another thing that I was thinking here is that maybe the democracy module is the first Starbase module, but maybe after that, you can the players could vote on other modules being added to this specific Starbase. Like further specializing this Starbase or region of the galaxy to be linked with some activity. For example, it could be focused on being a mining colony or being a factory for ship crafting, things like that. Different mega projects overall. I think this is something that could be potentially creating new shared gameplay loops between players where everyone can contribute to its success. I think it would be super interesting.
I mean, I think it could even go to the extent of a region could vote on hostility towards a friendly faction DAC. If you're frustrated with Rome because of the way they operate, you might decide we're going to elect hostile forces towards Rome, even though this is, say Oni. Even though it's the Oni faction, there's still patrols that will attack the Rome DAC just because you voted on it.
Spicy. I like it. A political cup. Yeah, this is pretty interesting because it allows you to use, for example, NPC forces against a DAC in the world of Star Atlas. through politics. This is super interesting. Community, how you guys feel about this module? Should this be one of our first priorities after C4 PTR? Let me know in the chat how you guys feel about this.
Yeah, my intention, and I've commented on this in Discord previously, is once we get C4 PTR out, I want to do a rotation of resources back into some of the tokenomic elements. I mean, this is something that we've needed to navigate since inception. It was always a trade-off of do we focus on gameplay features or do we focus on some tokenomic features? Case in point would be 2022. We needed to put a big portion of the team into the development of the DAO. Now, the DAO itself doesn't contribute to gameplay, but it was something that was demanded by players. And the question is, how do you justify the utility of POLIS without having the DAO in place? And so we put a bunch of time into creating the DAO structure, into creating the locker on-chain programs, so that people would have benefit in staking and earning POLIS emissions, and then also coupling that with the marketplace discount fee discount mechanics. So we've always had to balance demands, and so now we're looking at releasing a massive gameplay update. And so then I'd like to rotate back into some tokenomics. And so that's not only this installing democracy module, but that would also be the enhanced Atlas Locker proposal that we put out again over a year ago now. So there's like 12 or so different mechanics that enhance the value of locking Atlas. There's one more thing in the Atlas Locker that we didn't talk about in 2025 because wasn't relevant at the time, but it is today. And I'm only in the earliest stages of conceptualizing this with some people and working on partnerships, but it's player agents in the game and facilitating a rapid bootstrapping of creating your own agent that is able to operate through the C4 MCP, and will have skills that are developed by us and can also be developed by other people, but essentially like an option to spin up an agent that operates on your behalf within the game, that can play 24/7. It almost replaces all of the requirements of automation, because now the agent is sophisticated enough to do these things and actively participate in the economy. And kind of where I'm getting at with that is like the Atlas Locker, depending on the tier, would receive some subsidy and discount in operating that agent. Because the reality is, like, if you want to run an agent today, you need access to some model provider. Ideally, you want access to the frontier model providers like GPT 5.5 or an Opus 4.7. You don't need to go that sophisticated, but they'll be smarter if you are. But utilizing one of those is going to cost something like $100 or $200 per month at a minimum. And so what I'm working on are some deals with providers and wholesalers that'll give us preferential rates on access to that, the ability to quickly harness and bootstrap your agent, and then depending on your locker tier, getting some subsidy or further discount to your usage.
This is insane. So for example, a investor could come to Star Atlas, spin up a deck of agents and just let them play the game, even if he doesn't want to get involved. This is super cool. This is the beginning of the metaverse, guys. We will have real AIs playing the game.
I mean, I think so. Look, it's going to expose us to criticism, because a lot of people are going to say it's just bots running around in the game. Now, I think there's a real distinguishing characteristic of agents and their personalities and their memory persistence versus just running a script or a bot. I think it's a huge demographic to go after. I think it's a very prominent narrative right now that could bring visibility. I think we can approach it from marketing the passive income potential of letting your agent operate on your behalf. And the benefit to all of the existing players is that to whatever extent there is demand to have agents operating in the game, there's going to be an increase in demand for all assets. It's one of the core gating mechanisms that we have in Star Atlas in our economy, is that the only way you can extract value is first you have to invest value. You have to invest capital into owning assets so that you can play and earn Atlas. So there's an increase in demand of game assets that theoretically leads to an increase of asset values across the board. It becomes a source of demand for player crafted ships when we introduce that feature. Like, who's going to buy all the ships that players are crafting ultimately? You need a large player base to absorb that. Ultimately, we'll need destruction of assets through the high risk zone to also offset that inflation. But the final point I wanted to make on it is that I think that it's also a massive economic driver, and I can just give a simple example here again of somebody who configures their agent to specifically look at resource arbitrage opportunities between star bases. And maybe you can buy hydrogen at 0.1 at one star base and sell it at 0.12 at another star base. Well, all their agent does is run around, purchases those resources, transports them, and sells them. Well, now you have a massive increase in total economic activity across the board as a result of agents autonomously engaging in the game. And I think that's a net positive, because the person who listed that hydrogen for sale, well, they want the Atlas. They want somebody to buy it. If a player's not buying it, the agent will. And then likewise, somebody wanted to acquire that hydrogen at a different star base, they need somebody to sell it to them. If a player's not doing it, an agent will. So this is just like an accelerant to the entire economy.
This is so insanely cool. I can't wait for this, honestly. Michael, another thing that I think it was VB mentioned that the community is really looking forward to is a DAC system to allow players to partake in, like, the next step of the DAC platform that we had, so players could cooperate more easily in game. Is this something also in your radar for the near future, maybe after democracy and other stuff?
Yeah, it's not a like an immediate priority, but absolutely we need to enhance the DAC platform substantially in not only like how it's organized, but how players are recognized in the game, benefits of being within a DAC, and things like being able to trade freely without marketplace fees between DACs, for example, and just otherwise being able to collaborate and coordinate within the game. It's going to require a lot of enhancements for us to get there, but and we have to always be cognizant of players' propensity to exploit systems like this when we introduce them, which is one of the reasons why we don't have peer-to-peer trade in the game right now, because just like we've seen on the marketplace and in local markets, players will abuse this for OTC trades to avoid paying fees in the game. And, I get people don't like being taxed and don't like paying fees, but understand that if you're circumventing the fee structure from things like crafting or trading, well, you're actually negatively impacting every other person, because you're taking money from the DAO, or you're taking money from Automata, which is really one of our core revenue streams, or intended to be, that allows us to build this game out. And so, again, when I say, within DACs, players are able to trade resources without paying fees, well, how do we ensure that people aren't just joining DACs, making a trade, and then leaving that DAC, right? These are some of the exploits that we have to be aware of and kind of work around.
Sure. No, absolutely. Guys, we are on the top of the hour, and I know it's super exciting to have Michael here on stage. It's always a flush of fresh air when he comes, and I get super hyped whenever Michael starts delivering all this alpha. But I have the impression, not sure, Michael, how you're feeling about it, that we'll get a lot more of this pretty soon. Things are coming together. We are on the last legs of this next release cycle. And yeah, super exciting.
I definitely feel that way. I mean, we've been putting an enormous amount of work into a number of different products, as you guys know, between C4, Holosim, and Zinc, and as well as Unreal Engine, although in a lighter capacity just at the moment. But everything is starting to coalesce, and I've also publicly commented about like the strategy and how we want to roll everything out. And just for example, closing the Origin season, people are asking when we're going to do that. Well, I'm going to let the Origin season, airdrop season campaign run until we're ready for the Zinc mainnet launch. Zinc mainnet launch is presently held back by the C4 release because C4 is the flagship product that's going to be operating on Zinc. We can't launch Zinc mainnet with nothing on it. Now, we could go out and try to target some partners, but again, we are the flagship and we're driving this whole thing. And the reality is that C4 is going to drive millions of transactions on Zinc. And so what we need to orchestrate is the launch of Zinc mainnet alongside the release of C4 mainnet, just as an example. And there's many other things that we're orchestrating in the background, but to your point, it's all coming together now. And we're approaching the point where we can share at least some tentative timelines on all of this coming together.
Let's go. I know the community really wants to learn the when, but hold on just a little longer, guys. It's coming. Hopefully pretty soon you guys will be able to hear some whens.
Well, also, I just didn't want to reveal too much, but I just want to answer one more question, which Bohemian asked about how we handle multi-accounting. I think Larinor had a good response there with respect to, it's not Holosim, so there's not really any scalability in multi-accounting. Because ultimately the gating mechanism is asset ownership, and coupled with the council rank system, there's actually a true disincentive to disperse assets across multiple accounts, unless you're like multi-faction accounting, which maybe you can extract some benefits there. But generally speaking, the multi-accounting concept, you're better off consolidating assets into a single account, maximizing the amount of XP that you generate, maximizing your progression along council rank, and unlocking all of the features in council rank, which you'll do by consolidating assets into a single account. And then, one of the mandates that we have on the team is that there's through the council rank system, like should you achieve the maximum tier across all of those branches, you essentially will have an unlimited ability to bring assets into the game. Now, it's very restrictive initially in that progression curve, but when you get to the end, what's important to me is that there's no cap, because and not in the Gen Z sense, like no cap on the amount of assets that you can bring in, because otherwise then we would encourage multi-accounting and also discourage people from acquiring more assets. We want an unlimited potential to buy assets and utilize them in the game, and do so under a single account.
Awesome. Everyone, let's thank Michael with doubles in the chat for coming here and sharing some alpha with us. While we wait for the very, very, very soon news, I would also like to thank everyone, John, and everyone in the community who come faithfully to the brew every week. We love you guys. We are humbled by the passion that you guys show to our project. And very soon you guys will be able to get back some of our affection in the form of gameplay loops and very cool stuff to do. All right. So everyone, thank you once again for coming. Remember, we have the Lore Keepers tomorrow. It's going to be exciting. We are going to talk about the RPG campaign. Do your best to be there with us. And thank you all for attending our latest episode of the Atlas Brew. I hope you guys have all a very fabulous week, and see you soon. Bye, everyone. Take care.
See you very, very soon.
See you, everybody.